chick. I never call a woman a chick. I'll accept broad, lady, woman, and on occasion bitch. Bitch? What are you talking about? What's that for me, will you?
Hi everyone, welcome to this video, and in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts and review on Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Yeah, just saw the movie tonight and I want to go ahead and give my thoughts on the movie. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry about any spoilers and stuff like that. So Suicide Squad from a few years ago, even though it was a huge, unimaginable piece of shit, I mean, that movie, just the story and villain in that movie were just just fucking garbage. Something that was universally praised in the movie was Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I remember back when they cast her as Harley Quinn, it was like December of 2014. It's one of the few times with comic book casting that I'm all like, you know what? Yeah, that's going to be some perfect damn casting right there. Perfect casting for Harley Quinn. And sure enough, she nailed the role, man. She was a great Harley Quinn. She was fun. She was energetic. And the stuff they did with her wardrobe, her hair, the makeup, everything was just working really well. If only the Joker was done as well as she was in that movie. But that's a topic for another day. So yeah, Suicide Squad, even though it was a huge piece of shit, Harley Quinn, she was definitely the standout of that movie. So it was only a matter of time before we got sort of her own adventure going forth. They were talking about doing all sorts of stuff like Gotham City Sirens and obviously Birds of Prey, and that's what we're getting with this movie right here. The basic plot of it is a bit of a crazy plot, but just know that Harley Quinn, she's broken up with the Joker, she's all on her own, and she gets tangled up in sort of this whole sort of scheme involving the Black Mask going after this sort of thing that Harley Quinn have. I'll put it that way. Just know that it's Harley Quinn getting up to some fucking up shit. That's all you got to know about it. And when it comes to the start of this movie, I talk about her splitting up with the Joker. Something that's very awkward at the start of this movie is the fact that obviously they have to sort of avoid using the Joker that we saw in Suicide Squad played by Jared Leto, just because everybody knows that Joker was just not very well received. And it's kind of awkward how they have to sort of go around it. No real spoilers right here, but he's not really actually in the movie, but they have to sort of work around using him in sort of like flashbacks and stuff like that, including one really sort of odd thing they did where, no spoilers here, but they do sort of a visualization of the Joker, but it's not the look of the Joker that we saw in Suicide Squad, that whole gangster, shirt open, shit like that. Nah, it looks sort of like the classic Joker that you would see from like the comic books or the Batman, the 90s animated series. That was a little weird thing. So yeah, the whole thing that how they had to work around the Joker at the beginning of the movie, a little awkward, and it was sort of like, you know, yeah, Mr. Leto, he's definitely never coming back. Getting on to this movie itself, Birds of Prey, something about this movie that you will notice right off the bat is how it is very similar to another superhero movie that came out a few years ago in terms of sort of the structure and the dynamics, and that movie would be the first Deadpool from 2016. This movie borrows heavily when it comes to sort of the structure, sort of storytelling dynamics from Deadpool 1. I'm talking about the whole thing of sort of narrating, the main character narrating sort of the story to the audience, the sort of the humor, and sort of the unorthodox storytelling when it comes to sort of telling the story sort of out of order, doing flashbacks, going back and saying, okay, this is what happened, here we're all caught up, stuff like that. A whole lot of similes between Deadpool 1 and this movie right here. And you know what? It's actually sort of appropriate for them to sort of go with that approach, just because Harley Quinn is basically DC's Deadpool. Deadpool is just sort of that wild card, out of control, anti-hero character for the Marvel universe. That's what Harley Quinn is for the DC universe. Just that sort of wildish, wild card, violent, anti-hero, off the wall, you never know what's coming, stuff like that. And with what they did with using the structure of Deadpool 1 for this movie are really appropriate for Harley Quinn's character, and made it sort of an appropriate sort of Harley Quinn movie. And that's basically what I want to get down to, is that this movie, just like how Deadpool 1 was sort of the perfect like Deadpool movie capturing the essence of Deadpool, that's what made it sort of a fun movie. That's what this movie really does with Harley Quinn, man. They take the essence of Harley Quinn, those fun dynamics, and really make a story that sort of brings out the best of Harley Quinn, what she can do, the humor, the violence, all that kind of stuff, and make it sort of a real enjoyable experience, man. I mean, Harley Quinn, she's a very popular character for good reasons. Just sort of her character dynamics and stuff like that. Just everything about her. And they really do a good job of sort of crafting a story and just centering the thing around her to make it sort of a good time to where like, man, Harley Quinn, she's just a fun ass character, man. I'm really enjoying this. And obviously this is something we already know, but Margot Robbie, once again, really great as Harley Quinn, man. Even better in this one than she was in Suicide Squad. Just because in this one, she's obviously one that's really sort of got to sort of carry the movie all the way through. And she just does a great job. And sort of the stuff they did with sort of her wardrobe, the humor, the stuff they wrote for her, great stuff for Harley Quinn in this movie right here. And something else that definitely helped this movie a lot, and I am so thankful that we're living in the age that they can do this, is the fact that this movie is rated R. The rated R dynamic, just like it helped Deadpool 1 a whole lot, really helped this movie a whole lot right here, man. Just because with the kind of character Harley Quinn is, was sort of mainly the violence and just sort of the stuff she's involved with when it comes to sort of crime and stuff like that, to have it sort of be a PG-13 movie, that shit just would have been way watered down. It's one of the other things I did not like about Suicide Squad, where you have a movie about all these villains, these killers, and yet because this has got to be PG-13, let's just have them take out like a bunch of like Egyptian sort of fucked up face soldiers or whatever. I don't know what the fuck that movie was trying to do. This movie right here, we get violence from all sort of angles, from the bad guys, from Harley Quinn herself, from our heroes, and it's really fun to watch. And like I said, that R rating, you got to be so thankful again to that first Deadpool for opening up the doors for rated R comic book films to where they can be successful. And look at how we've gotten that. We've gotten Logan. We got that Joker movie from last year. And now we get this one. Yeah, just great stuff how we can get these R-rated comic book films for characters that it is appropriate for. And even though the Harley Quinn, like off the bat, I wouldn't say that I would never have thought like a Harley Quinn movie would have needed to be rated R. But when you look at what they did with this film right here, it's all like, yeah, the rated R dynamic made this film a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Something that was kind of interesting when I was watching this movie as it went along is that the movie's called Birds of Prey, but I mean, let's not bullshit ourselves. Like going into this movie, we knew this was sort of the Harley Quinn show. That's the character people wanted to see. And I would say that for the most part, I do consider it more of sort of a Harley Quinn solo film. I mean, obviously she's the one the movie's sort of centering on. But like I said, the movie's called Birds of Prey. So eventually sort of the team dynamic comes in. And the team dynamic, surprisingly, actually was kind of fun. Throughout the movie, we're seeing these characters who are sort of going around sort of Harley Quinn's story. Characters named the Black Canary, sort of another character that's like a police chief officer, another character called the Huntress. And these characters, as the story went along, you do sort of enjoy their company and sort of what they have to contribute to the story. And they were sort of decent characters in their own right. But once the whole team dynamic comes together by the end of the film, it's surprisingly really fun to watch and makes you say, wow, okay, DC actually can do sort of a decent sort of team-up movie. Because all of the team-up movies in the past have been just awful. You know, with Suicide Squad, Batman vs. Superman, and even Justice League to a certain extent. But their solo movies have been the ones that have been, like, for the most part, kind of excellent. And this movie was sort of a combination of both, being that Harley Quinn sort of solo film, but by the end of it, you get to sort of the whole team-up aspect. And that stuff was actually really cool to watch. Throughout the movie, sort of the plot sort of incorporates them in sort of a decent way. Like I said, mainly focusing on Harley Quinn, but we get these characters sprinkled out with the Huntress, Black Canary, the police officer, and Harley Quinn sort of protecting this girl from the Black Mask. The plot sort of reminded me of sort of Deadpool 2 in that aspect. My favorite character out of all of these sort of Birds of Prey that was not Harley Quinn was the Huntress, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Her character was just really just sort of awkward, but awkward in a great way, and just sort of the dynamics and badassery to her character combined to the awkwardness made things really fun. And shout out also has to go to Ian McGregor, who plays Black Mask in this film. Definitely a role I've never really seen him doing before, but he was at this sort of villain role, but he was fun, man. He was sort of camping it up as Black Mask. You can tell he was having a fun time, and overall he was a decent villain. I was like, all right, it's all right to sort of see his thing. The plot in the end, though, isn't really all that deep. The plot sort of reminded me of sort of Deadpool 2, where we're protecting this kid just for the sake of like protecting a kid. We don't really have a great reason to do it. The whole thing is sort of getting us an excuse to have some cool action, some fun bits, stuff like that. But like I said, the plot, it's not terrible. It's just definitely not the highlight of the movie. The highlight is definitely the writing, the unorthodox way they sort of tell the story, the flashbacks, obviously the performances centering on Harley Quinn, all that kind of stuff made this a surprisingly really good movie. Really fun movie. I really wasn't sure what to sort of expect from this movie going in based on the trailers. Just I thought the trailers were decent, but it's all like, who knows? This could really sort of go either way. But the movie itself ended up being sort of a really fun time for me, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. This was definitely the Harley Quinn movie you definitely want to see. So I'm going to end up giving this movie an 8 out of 10. This movie definitely delivered. It was a fun time. Definitely a real fun time. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. An 8 out of 10 or a 7.5. But I would definitely recommend people gonna go see this movie. This movie is definitely DC's version of Deadpool right here, and that is definitely a good thing for this movie right here. So DC in the end, man, the DC sort of cinematic universe, like I said, man, their solo movies are the ones that have been just really just sort of on point. Talking about Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam last year was excellent, and then this Harley Quinn movie, great stuff. Like I said, it's their team-up movies that they really got to work on in terms of making, sort of getting back on track to making sort of a DC universe where everything connects. But you know what? If they want to go with this sort of solo movie approach, if they're going to make movies like this and then Shazam from last year and hopefully Wonder Woman in a couple of months, hopefully that's good too, then this might be the year that DC can maybe sort of level the playing field with the Marvel Cinematic Universe now that things are going to be slowing down in an endgame post-world. So we'll have to see where things goes. But that's right now, Birds of Prey, definitely give it a good recommendation. Like I said, it's like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, something like that, but it's definitely a good time. So I hope y'all enjoyed this review, and thank you for watching.